so that not to contaminate my journey to the Divinely Presence. This is the supreme, because once we penetrate through these veils of dirtiness and the veils of dunya, those have to be cleaned. So always a reminder for those whom are tuning in is that this path is based on getting to know myself. A lot of the high level knowledges, these are like extra items on the menu that tell people or encourage people that these are the potentials and these are the realities. But the basics always have to be mastered and always have to be accomplished, is to continuously sit with myself, know myself, what's happening, what's my temptations that are coming. And we described in other talks that the shaitan has avowed to attack the believer from 6 directions. And so each of these directions are temptations and vices and a gravitational pull that he's pulling them in these directions so that not to reach the Divinely Presence and to be contaminated. If someone remains in a state of contamination, all they achieve, all they perceive is through contaminated eyes, physical and spiritual eyes that become contaminated. Means then this becomes the process of why Prophet gave to us arafan nafsahu, means the one whom contemplates themselves and begins going in, because you can't go from yourself into your heart and immediately talk about the Divinely Presence, but you have to get to know yourself. Now, why do I get angry? Why am I stubborn? Why don't I listen? Why do I have no discipline? All of these different realities of the self, those are the enemies that you have to fight. When a prize fighter is lined up for a title fight, he's immediately asking, I want to fight the main person so I can get the belt and get recognition. And that's not how it works. It means the fighter has to earn their way towards a title fight. And there's no difference in spirituality. You don't just come to the spiritual door and assume that now how do I get all my secrets. Everything in this spiritual door is based on opening the door and now getting to know myself. And that's through the meditation, because once we begin to write that what are my characteristics. So why do I have anger? Why do I have lack of discipline? Why do I have this? Why do I have that? All of these characteristics we identify and continuously identify, because each year we become spiritually more aware inshaAllah. With that spiritual awareness then we should write down a part of this disease that we have, that what's this diagnosis that I have that is stopping me from these realities. Being truthful with oneself and not blaming anyone else that, oh it's because of them I'm like this, it's because of them that this is happening. It's not because of anyone but myself. And that becomes then is the greatest battle, to sit by yourself, identify the difficulties and the sicknesses within oneself, and then writing them and saying that these are the enemies from within me that I must overcome. And becoming conscious of it, that to continuously battle anger, continuously battle jealousy, continuously battle all of these defects that we find within ourselves. Otherwise the realities mean nothing, they become contaminated within a heart that's not trying to purify its reality. And that becomes the great struggle, because people begin to identify themselves but they want to live with it and say, it's okay, doesn't matter, let me go to the next. And this is a reminder for myself that this is what's most important, that the realities, trying to understand the realities, that's a different reality, that's a different understanding. But trying to understand myself and combat my bad characteristics, that I look at everything with complaints, I look at everything with the badness, I find the fault in everything but never the fault in myself. Means the one who opens their mouth to find fault in others, what they're saying is that they've already now accomplished all the faults of themselves. They've done it, they cleaned it, they perfected it. And the tariqah comes and teach that's impossible. The ending of one's faults is a never ending until we enter the grave. So then who can speak about the faults and complaints about others if they still have on their plate all of their own faults. And that's what the tariqah comes and begins to teach about the hypocrisy and all the talks that were given. Because what would be the hypocrite whom talks about the faults and issues, complaints and errors of other people, but they don't see all the errors of themselves that they refuse to fix. And they become complacent with their bad character as if it's it's a scar upon my face and I plan to leave it there. And that's not the tariqah. The tariqah is no, that if I find these bad characters I have to busy myself taking care of myself and trying to fix myself, not the concern about other people's. When the eye is on the outside towards other people means it's not conscious of itself, and that's what shaitan wants. Why you want to look at yourself and find problems? Look at them and find all their problems. and like a master inspector for inappropriate inspections, you can find everything, everything. My goodness, one person can open their mouth and find a problem with every single thing around them, and there's no shortage of that. But for themselves they don't find anything. And you say, no, I do find anything. No, you couldn't find anything. If you found something about yourself, then how could you possibly talk about somebody else's faults, somebody else's issues, how they do this, how they run that, how this, or whatever complaints that people have. The only complaint that one should have is against themselves. That why am I like this? Why am I angry? Why am I judgmental? Why am I looking at things that are not concerning me? Why am I thinking about things that are not concerning me? Why don't I focus on my task versus somebody else's task? So these are all of the major characteristics that have to be resolved within ourselves. Otherwise the realities and haqqaiqs, they're like gold and you're throwing them into styrofoam, and the styrofoam of bad character will never contain, will never hold those realities. So it's just candy for your ear that it came in and went. But the ones whom wish to take the realities and become a vessel and vehicle for these realities, they understand that their character has to be resolved. When the shaykh is giving talks and guidance from these awliya are coming, they understand, I have to resolve this, I have to identify these. I've heard it in the talks, I've gotten clues within my inspirations, these are characteristics that have to be resolved. And a reminder for myself that maghfirah is exiting. These second 10 days of Ramadan coming to an end, and by tomorrow night inshaAllah, atkum minan nar. These 10 days of forgiveness, that it's one thing to ask Allah forgiveness for our sins, but ask Allah forgiveness for our bad character, in which we overlook our character and find the faults of others. And that Allah to take away this hypocrisy within ourselves, because what's opening upon the world is a grand hypocrisy. These are the kings of hypocrites that will be ruling the earth, in which every word they say is a lie, every action is a lie. They talk of others but they don't talk of themselves, everything is a lie. They talk of peace but they have no peace, they have no interest in peace. Means the ultimate of hypocrisy is opening upon this earth, and we don't want Allah to count us in as one of them.